Nuria ducked low as she followed the group through the breach into the service levels of the embassy. She knew these corridors. They were close now. She had been stationed at the assemblage for years, long enough to know her own embassy like the back of her hoof. She grunted in satisfaction. They would save her crew, and that traitor Mokhtub would pay for his lies. The group fell into a run again, eating up the distance down the corridors at a breakneck sprint. Nuria easily kept pace in a lazy gallop. Suddenly, Nesh stopped directly in front of her, and Nuria scrambled to avoid crushing the tiny ambassador over with her hooves. "Captain Gupta." Nesh's voice sounded strained. "I just heard from my tactical team. Mokhtub has managed to extend the docking collar, and it sounds like they've received word about our rescue attempt. He's on his way with his personal guards to the prisoners, and he's stationed additional guards in the hallways around the storage area where they're held." "Can your team block them?" Captain Gupta asked. "Shut some security doors between them and the prisoners." "Not in time, Captain," Nesh said. "The Bonthan embassy's internal networks are much better protected than the assemblage security networks. By the time my team had access, it would be too late." "Those guards are going to slow us down, Ambassador." The Marine captain turned to Ambassador Woods. "We can't hold back if we're going to reach the prisoners in time. That means casualties." Nuria could hear Woods sigh through his comm link. "Understood, Captain. You're authorized for lethal force." "Wait." Nuria raised a hoof. "I know a different way." On Nesh's holopad, the storage areas of the Bonthan embassy complex were lined up in neat rows, accessible from a hallway running parallel to the line of supply rooms. What the holopad didn't show, however, was that each storage area also had a large overhead door that connected them to the adjacent storage room, allowing large pallets of goods to be transported from room to room without using the narrower hallway. Gaining access to the first storage room was easy enough. The storage rooms weren't protected by blast doors, so a single charge from one of Gupta's Marines was enough to blow the door. Now the rescue party sprinted toward the overhead door inside the storage hangar. It opened without a security code, and the Marines and Dreden ducked under it as it rose, spilling into the next storage area, weapons raised. Nesh followed suit, typing at his holopad as he ran. 10 more rooms, and then we're there. Dielm watched with concern on his holoscreen as the rescue party made their way through the storage areas to the prisoners, while he wrestled with the Bonthan embassy's network security and another data window. Gaining access to the camera feeds in the embassy was easy enough once the docking collar was extended. He was able to simply piggyback on the courier ship's connection to the station. But Dielm still hadn't been able to crack into any kind of access in the Bonthan embassy that allowed him to do anything but watch. "How are they doing, Dielm?" his lieutenant asked, propelling herself to the hole in the courier ship's hull, where Dielm's computer was currently hardwired to the courier ship. "We've got another 25 minutes before we're going to be red on oxygen." "Not good, Lieutenant." Dielm spun his computer on its extendable chest mount to face Reeld. "They've managed to bypass several Bonthan security teams by going through adjacent storage rooms rather than the main service hallways. But Mokhtub and what looks to be his personal guards are going to make it to the prisoners first. Is there anything you can do?" Dielm shook his head inside his helmet. "All major security functions are well protected. I may be able to get access to some minor environmental controls, but nothing major." "Keep trying." "Yes, ma'am," Dielm replied. Suddenly, a shadow fell over the courier ship and the Dreden tactical team that was perched on it. Looking up, an enormous mushroom cap-shaped ship moved slowly across their field of view, silhouetted by a reflected light from the planet below. Dielm typed furiously at his holoscreen, pulling up assemblage logs. "It's the Flashing Hooves, Lieutenant. It's been ordered out of the system by Admiral Mokhtub." Communication Officer Wenthan's joints ached from disuse, and his forehoofs bled where they chafed against the restraints that bound him in place. It was pitch black inside the storage room. That's where he assumed they were being held, from the glimpses he had seen of the corridors, beneath the clumsy hood they had placed over his head, each time he had been escorted to the flashing hooves and back. He could hear moans from other bridge crew, whether from the torture they had endured or their current fate, Wenthan couldn't tell. Suddenly, light burned his eyes as the storage area's overhead lamps turned on and the door opened. Wenthan's stomach churned when he saw who it was. Maktub, flanked by 4 of his personal guard. Is this when he kills us? He has everything he wants. Wenthan burned with shame. He has what he wants because of me. Maktub looked around the room at the restrained bridge crew. It pains me to do this, you know. Maktub sighed as he pulled an ornate flechette pistol from his satchel, careful to handle it with a cloth he held in his grasping hoof. But Nurya's words will infect the Security Council and the League. You were there with me on the bridge. You saw her face, saw how she bought into the humans' words. She even offered them honors. You saw how grateful she was to a predator that would wipe us all out. So this sacrifice you make, Maktub continued, it's bigger than any of us. It's for the League's very survival. I don't like what I have to do here, but I hope you understand why I have to do it. It's a shame that none of you see things my way. This would have been much easier. Maktub gazed at the weapon in his grasping hoof. Nurya has to be completely discredited if the League is to survive. And there can be no question as to what happened to our fleet. Can't you see that? Can't you see that I have no choice here? If Nurya, our greatest admiral, could be seduced by the humans, how many others could fall victim to the same trick? Maktub's hackle spines had slowly extended as he spoke, but now withdrew. So when you refuse to corroborate my story, you really leave me no choice. It saddens me to see some of Bond's finest turn out to be such traitors. You're the traitor, Maktub. To Wentham's right, the flashing hooves tactical officer spat out. Without the Terrans, we would have been wiped out by the ration. Is that what you want? We lost that battle, not because of the ration. Maktub approached the bound tactical officer, who had managed to struggle to his hooves, despite his restraints. But because of Nurya. She broke our line of battle. Retreated in the face of the enemy. I had hoped that you could see that before the end. As we speak, the humans and Dreedens are attacking the Bonthan embassy. They won't make it past the gates, but it means that they know you're here. And you have become a liability to the security of the League. Once the humans and Dreeden have been pushed back by our security and their taint wiped off of the assemblage, your bodies will be found in ruins of the Dreeden embassy, shot by Nurya's own pistol. It's important that you know all this, that your deaths will serve a purpose. Maktub sighed. And that I do this, not as a traitor, but a patriot. Wenthan watched in horror as Maktub raised Nurya's ceremonial flechette pistol and shot the tactical officer in the face. Author's name and the link to original text is in the description. Consider tapping the thumbs up and pressing the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video.